The crowd's roar vibrated through the concrete walls of the holding chamber, even several levels below the arena floor. Kai could feel the pulsating energy of 17 alien species united in bloodlust. He sat motionless on the metal bench, blue energy shackles humming softly around his wrists, observing the other combatants with calculated detachment. Nexus Arena, a fighting coliseum built within the hollowed core of an asteroid, had hosted interspecies combat for centuries. Here, diplomatic disputes were settled through proxies and ritual combat, rather than through the devastation of interplanetary war. For most species, it represented glory and honor. For humans, it was merely another battlefield where Earth's interests hung in the balance. Kai studied his fellow fighters carefully. A Chronari warrior with spine-ridged shoulders paced the chamber, occasionally slamming massive fists against the walls. 3 slender Seri monks meditated in perfect stillness, and in the far corner, isolated by mutual agreement of the others, sat a hooded figure Kai couldn't identify. "Combatant 437, prepare yourself," announced a metallic voice through the speakers. The energy shackles around Kai's wrists deactivated with a soft click. As he rose, a nearby Drekken fighter with translucent skin hissed, "The human will die quickly. No weapons. Pathetic." Kai remained silent as guards escorted him through the long corridors leading to the arena floor. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step, a thunderstorm of anticipation. When the final gate opened, blinding light flooded his vision. The arena floor spread before him, a vast expanse of rusty red sand under the artificial sky dome. Tier upon tier of spectators rose around the circular fighting ground, faces of countless species focused on the small human who had dared enter their sacred combat space. Across the arena stood his first opponent, a Tiberian fighter named Grell, twice Kai's size with gleaming exoskeletal armor covering his upper body. The alien's 4 arms each clutched ceremonial blades that caught the arena lights. "Citizens of the 17 worlds," the amplified voice of Vex Kororin, the arena master, echoed across the stadium, his 4 arms raised dramatically as his purple eyes surveyed the crowd. "We present preliminary match 7, Grell of Tiberian, victor of 12 arena contests." The crowd's appreciation washed over the alien fighter, who raised his blades in acknowledgement. "And his opponent," Kororin continued, voice tinged with barely disguised contempt. "Kai of Earth, unarmed by choice." A mixture of jeers and curious murmurs rippled through the audience. Humans rarely participated in Nexus Arena, and those who did typically wielded advanced weaponry to compensate for their physical limitations. An unarmed human was unprecedented. Kai remained motionless, hands loose at his sides, breathing measured and calm. His eyes never left Grell. "Combat begins at the tone," Kororin announced. "Victory achieved by death or incapacitation." The tone resonated, a deep, vibrating note that seemed to pass through Kai's body. Grell charged immediately, all 4 blades sweeping in deadly arcs designed to dismember or decapitate. Kai moved with fluid precision. Where Grell expected resistance, he found empty space. Where the alien anticipated evasion, Kai was suddenly within his guard. The human's hands struck with surgical accuracy, not aiming for brute damage, but targeting nerve clusters and pressure points unique to Tiberian physiology. First, a strike to the shoulder junction immobilized Grell's upper right arm. Then, as the alien roared in confusion, Kai's knuckles found the sensitive nerve bundle beneath the jaw, sending disorienting signals through the Tiberian's nervous system. A precisely aimed kick collapsed Grell's left knee. The crowd fell silent, stunned by the unfolding scene. Tiberians were known for their durability and regenerative abilities. Yet this one was faltering, his movements growing uncoordinated as the human methodically disabled his combat effectiveness without delivering a single killing blow. Within minutes, Grell lay immobilized on the sand, conscious, but unable to continue fighting. His blades scattered uselessly around him. "Impossible!" muttered voices throughout the arena. Vex Kororin's voice betrayed his surprise. "Victory to Kai of Earth, by incapacitation." The silence that followed was more unsettling than any cheer could have been. Kai stood calmly over his defeated opponent, then stepped back and gave a small, formal bow, not to the crowd, but to Grell himself. As guards came to collect the fallen Tiberian, Kororin's voice rang out again. "The human advances to tomorrow's quarterfinals, where he will face Thorgrim Bloodfang of Kronari." Kai was escorted from the arena floor, acutely aware of the thousands of eyes tracking his every movement. The established order had been disrupted. An unarmed human had defeated a championship-caliber opponent without killing him, a direct challenge to the arena's bloody traditions. Back in the holding chamber, a small communication implant beneath Kai's skin vibrated. Director Sarah Hawthorne's voice whispered directly through his bone conduction implant. "Preliminary assessment successful. You've drawn their attention. Now identify the key members of the Alliance. Observe and document." Kai gave no outward indication he'd received a message. His mission was far more complex than winning fights. Earth's intelligence services had identified Nexus Arena as the nexus point for a dangerous alliance forming against human interests. His role was to infiltrate deeply enough to access restricted information, and the fastest way up was through combat victory. That evening, as Kai sat in his assigned quarters reviewing mental notes on Kronari weaknesses, the door slid open unexpectedly. 4 arena security officers entered, followed by Vex Kororin himself. "Human," Kororin said, his purple eyes cold and calculating. "Your performance was unusual." Kai remained seated. "I fight to survive. That's all. The purpose of the arena is not merely survival." Kororin's upper arms crossed, while his lower ones remained poised near ceremonial weapons. "It is a demonstration of superiority through complete victory. Your methods deny the audience the satisfaction of resolution." "My opponent was defeated." "But not killed." Kororin stepped closer. "You should know that tomorrow's opponent, Thorgrim Bloodfang, has slaughtered every human he's faced. 17 in total." Kai met his gaze evenly. "Then I'll be the 18th he faces, not the 18th he kills." Kororin's facial ridges tightened, the equivalent of a smile, though one without warmth. "Your confidence is entertaining, but I should inform you that continued advancement through the tournament will eventually match you against our champion." He paused for effect. "Naelin of the Vorak has remained undefeated for 15 cycles. She has never allowed an opponent to leave the arena alive." "Everyone's streak ends eventually," Kai replied calmly. "Indeed." Kororin moved toward the door. "Sleep well, human. Tomorrow promises to be educational." After the arena master departed, Kai closed his eyes and focused on his breathing. The mention of Naelin was significant. The Vorak were among the most disciplined warrior cultures in the galaxy, bound by strict codes of honor. If the tournament structure would eventually pit him against their champion, he needed to understand exactly what that meant. His implant vibrated again. "Naelin of the Vorak," came Director Hawthorne's voice. "Our intelligence suggests she may have access to the Inner Council. Prioritize observation of her techniques and associates." Dawn arrived artificially in Nexus Arena, with programmed lighting simulating sunrise. Kai was escorted to the training chambers, a privilege afforded to advancing combatants. The massive room contained various exercise equipment adapted for different species' physiologies. Kai had barely begun his warm-up routine when a hush fell over the chamber. Other fighters stepped back, creating a path for a new arrival. Kai continued his movements, but shifted position to observe. Naelin of the Vorak entered with an unmistakable aura of authority. Tall and athletically built, Her copper-red hair was pulled back in intricate warrior braids. Her amber eyes scanned the room with predatory assessment. She wore training armor that bore 17 distinct markings, one for each championship victory. At her side hung a curved Vorak blade, its surface rippling with embedded technology that could adjust the weapon's properties mid-combat. Her gaze landed on Kai, narrowing slightly. Without hesitation, she approached. "You are the human who refuses to kill," she stated, her voice carrying the musical lilt common to Vorak's speech, yet hardened by years of command. Kai straightened, meeting her eyes directly. "I'm the human who wins without killing. There is no honor in half measures." She circled him slowly, assessing. "Combat in the arena is sacred. To deny your opponent a warrior's death is to shame them. Where I come from, preserving life demonstrates greater mastery than taking it." Nayland stopped her circling. "And where exactly do you come from, human? Your technique is unlike others of your kind I've faced." "Earth," Kai answered simply, "though I've studied widely." "Studied." She repeated the word with slight disdain. "Combat is not an academic pursuit. It is the ultimate expression of will and honor." Her hand rested on her sword hilt. "What are you, truly? A fighter without weapons or a scholar without wisdom?" Kai's face remained impassive. "I fight to survive. Honor is a luxury I can't afford." Something flickered in Nayland's amber eyes, perhaps surprise at his bluntness, or perhaps recognition of a deeper truth. "We shall see what you are when you face Thorgrim. The Chronari do not fall to pressure points and redirection. They are force incarnate." As if summoned by her words, a massive figure entered the training chamber. Thorgrim Bloodfang stood nearly 8 feet tall, his leathery skin covered with ritual scarification. Bone spurs protruded from his shoulders, and tusks jutted from his lower jaw. The Chronari warrior carried a training weight that would have required 3 humans to lift. "Speaking of your imminent defeat," Nayland said with the faintest smile. She stepped back, giving Thorgrim space to approach. The Chronari slammed the weight to the floor, shaking the entire chamber. "Human," he growled, voice like grinding stones. "You face me tomorrow. I will not be humiliated like the Tiberian. I will crush your bones and drink the marrow." Kai nodded politely. "Looking forward to it." Thorgrim blinked in confusion, then roared with laughter. "The tiny creature has courage. It will make your heart tastier when I rip it from your chest." "Perhaps we should give our fighters a preview," Nayland suggested, her voice carrying across the chamber. Other combatants stopped their training, forming a loose circle. "A training demonstration." Thorgrim grinned, revealing multiple rows of sharpened teeth. "Yes, let me show this human what awaits him." Kai knew this was a test, not just of his abilities, but of his discretion. Revealing too much of his technique would disadvantage him tomorrow. Revealing too little might cast doubt on his preliminary victory. "A brief exchange only," he agreed. The impromptu match began without ceremony. Thorgrim charged with surprising speed for his size, massive arms swinging in devastating arcs. Kai slipped past the first blow, ducked under the second, and precisely struck the nerve junction where the Chronari's arm met his shoulder. To Kai's surprise, Thorgrim barely flinched. Chronari physiology was evidently more resistant to such techniques than he'd anticipated. The giant's backhand caught Kai in the ribs, sending him sliding across the training mat. Kai rolled to his feet, reassessing. Pressure points wouldn't work effectively. He would need another approach. As Thorgrim charged again, Kai changed tactics. Instead of attempting to disable, he focused on balance disruption. He slipped inside the Chronari's guard, used the momentum of the charge to redirect Thorgrim's weight, and with a precise application of leverage, sent the massive alien tumbling to the floor. The chamber fell silent. Thorgrim lay on his back, momentarily stunned, not by pain, but by the impossibility of what had happened. A creature, 1/3 his size, had put him on the ground. Kai stepped back, offering a hand to help his opponent up, a human gesture of sportsmanship that confused the watching aliens. Thorgrim ignored the offered hand, rising with a growl. Tomorrow, human. Tomorrow we fight for real. He stomped away, dignity bruised more than his body. Kai turned to find Nayland watching him with intense curiosity. Interesting, she said. You adapted when your initial technique failed. Adaptation keeps you alive. Perhaps, she tilted her head slightly. But tomorrow's official match will be different. Thorgrim now knows to expect your unorthodox approach. And I know to expect his strength, Kai replied. Fair exchange. There is nothing fair about combat, Nayland said, stepping closer. There is only victory or defeat, honor or shame. Her amber eyes studied him with uncomfortable intensity. You intrigue me, human. Your kind rarely participates in the arena, and never with your methods. What drives you? Kai maintained his composure. Survival, as I said. No. She shook her head slightly. There are easier paths to survival than the arena. You have purpose here. As do I. Before Kai could respond, she turned and walked away, her training armor catching the light with each confident stride. That night, in the privacy of his quarters, Kai received another transmission from Director Hawthorne. The Vorak champion has taken notice. This is an opportunity. Our intelligence suggests Nayland sits on the High Council that governs arena operations. Cultivate this connection. The next day, Kai faced Thorgrim Bloodfang officially in the quarterfinals. The crowd was substantially larger than for his preliminary match. Word had spread about the unusual human fighter. This time, Thorgrim came prepared. He had studied Kai's movements and anticipated the redirection techniques. The battle lasted nearly 30 minutes, an eternity in arena combat. Kai suffered a dislocated shoulder and multiple lacerations from near misses with Thorgrim's bone spurs. But in the end, adaptability proved superior to raw strength. Kai identified the pattern in Thorgrim's breathing, the slight hesitation before each major attack. He timed his movements precisely, using the Chronari's momentum against him repeatedly until exhaustion and frustration made the giant careless. The final sequence happened in seconds. Kai slipped past a telegraphed punch, struck 3 precise points along Thorgrim's spine, and applied pressure to the base of the skull. The massive Chronari collapsed to his knees, muscles locked in temporary paralysis. Victory by incapacitation, again. The crowd's reaction was mixed: confusion, appreciation for the technical display, and disappointment at being denied the expected bloodshed. Vex Kororin's announcement carried thinly veiled displeasure. Victory to Kai of Earth. The human advances to the semifinals, where he will face Saren of the Void Collective. As medical personnel attended to Thorgrim, Kai caught sight of Nayland watching from a private viewing box. Her expression was unreadable, but her attention was unmistakable. Back in his quarters, Kai methodically treated his own wounds with supplies from the medical kit. His shoulder ached from the relocation, and several cuts would leave new scars. But he remained focused on his mission. 2 more victories would place him in the championship match against Nayland, and the access that might come with it. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. Kai concealed the medical supplies and opened it to find a Vorak attendant in formal attire. Champion Nayland requests your presence for evening meal, the attendant stated. Will you accept? This was unexpected but potentially valuable. I accept. Follow me. Kai was led through restricted corridors to a part of the complex he hadn't previously accessed. They eventually arrived at what appeared to be private dining quarters. The attendant gestured him inside and departed. The room was sparsely decorated, but elegant, with design elements that suggested Vorak aesthetic preferences, geometric patterns, and ceremonial weapons displayed as art. Nayland stood near a viewport that looked out into the asteroid belt surrounding Nexus Arena. She had changed from her armor into more formal attire, still functional, but marked with symbols of her status. The curved Vorak blade remained at her side. "You fought well today," she said without turning. "Thank you for the invitation," Kai responded, remaining near the entrance. "Sit, eat." She finally turned, gesturing to a table set with various dishes. "Synthesized to accommodate human digestion while introducing you to Vorak cuisine." Kai took the offered seat, noting that the chair was positioned to keep his back to the wall, a courtesy that suggested Naylan understood warrior psychology. She sat across from him, her movements fluid and precise. "You've surprised the arena," she stated, serving portions onto decorative plates. "2 victories without bloodshed." "Is that why you invited me? Professional curiosity?" A slight smile curved her lips. "Partially. The Vorak study all combat forms. Yours is unusual." "And the other part?" Naylan handed him a plate. "You've drawn Vex Karoran's attention. Not many achieve that without dying shortly afterward." This was valuable information, confirmation that the arena master took personal interest in disruptions to the established order. "Should I be concerned?" Kai asked, cautiously trying the food. It was surprisingly palatable, spiced with unfamiliar flavors, but not unpleasant. "Concerned? Yes. Afraid? No." Naylan observed his reaction to the food with subtle satisfaction. Fear has no place in a warrior's mind. "We agree on that much, at least." "Do we?" She leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Kai of Earth, what do you know of the Vorak?" "A warrior culture with strict codes of honor," he replied. 17 major houses, each with distinct combat traditions. Your people judge worth primarily through martial skill, though you value artistry and scholarship as extensions of discipline." Naylan raised an eyebrow. "Well informed for a human." "I study my surroundings." "Then you understand that as champion, I represent the pinnacle of Vorak tradition." She touched the 17 marks on her formal attire. "Each of these signifies not just victory, but honorable combat to the death. The ultimate test of will against will." Kai met her gaze. "And my refusal to kill troubles you?" "It contradicts everything the arena represents." She studied him intently. "Yet, I cannot deny your skill. You defeated Thorgrim through superior technique, not trickery. There are many paths to victory, but only one path to honor," she countered. "At least, that is what I was taught." The conversation continued through the meal, touching on philosophy, combat techniques, and cultural differences. Kai carefully revealed enough of himself to seem forthcoming without compromising his mission. Naylan, likewise, shared perspectives on Vorak traditions while clearly withholding deeper truths. As the meal concluded, she fixed him with her amber gaze. "Tomorrow you face Saren of the Void Collective. Their neural network allows them to anticipate physical attacks. Your usual methods may prove insufficient." "Thank you for the insight. I don't offer it as assistance," she clarified. "I offer it because I wish to face you in the championship. And for that to happen, you must defeat Saren." Kai nodded his understanding. "You want to test yourself against my approach?" "I want to show you the difference between survival and honor," Naylan responded. "And perhaps understand why a human would willingly enter the arena at all." As Kai returned to his quarters, he processed the interaction. Naylan was clearly interested in him as an anomaly, but there was something else beneath her professional curiosity, perhaps recognition of a kindred spirit who walked a solitary path. His implant vibrated. "Progress report," came Director Hawthorne's voice. "Making connections," Kai subvocalized, the implant picking up the vibrations in his throat. "The Vorak champion has made contact. She may provide access to restricted areas if I continue advancing." "Excellent. Remember, we need concrete evidence of the alliance against Earth. Tournament victory is secondary to intelligence gathering." "Understood." The semi-final match against Saren proved to be Kai's greatest challenge yet. The Void Collective representative was a humanoid entity composed of millions of microscopic organisms functioning as a neural network. As Nayland had warned, they could anticipate physical movements by reading minute muscle contractions. Kai was forced to improvise, deliberately initiating movements, then changing course mid-action, a technique that confused Saren's predictive capabilities. The battle lasted nearly an hour, with Kai suffering several injuries from Saren's energetic appendages. Victory came not through pressure points or leverage, but through environmental manipulation. Kai lured Saren to a section of the arena where the sand was deepest, then used his opponent's predictive nature against them. By creating patterns, then breaking them, he eventually managed to disrupt Saren's collective consciousness long enough to induce a temporary neural shutdown. Once again, incapacitation rather than death. The crowd's reaction had evolved from confusion to fascination. There were still bloodthirsty jeers, but also appreciative murmurs at the display of technical mastery. Vex Kororin's announcement seemed strained. Victory to Kai of Earth. The human advances to the championship match against our reigning champion, Nayland of the Vorak. As medical droids attended to his injuries, Kai caught sight of Nayland in her viewing box. This time, she inclined her head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement or perhaps respect. That evening, as Kai meditated in his quarters, focusing his mind past the pain of his injuries, the door chimed again. This time, it was Vex Kororin himself who entered, flanked by arena officials. "Congratulations are in order," the arena master said, his forearms clasped in formal posture. "No human has ever reached the championship match." "Thank you," Kai replied simply, remaining seated. "Tomorrow's contest will be special," Kororin continued. "The culmination of our tournament deserves appropriate ceremony." Kai waited, sensing there was more. The championship traditionally includes ritual elements beyond mere combat. Kororin's purple eyes gleamed with something like satisfaction. "As the challenger, you should be aware that Vorak tradition demands total victory." "I'm familiar with the concept." "Are you familiar with the binding of wills?" Kororin asked. "An ancient Vorak custom for their most sacred contests?" Kai kept his expression neutral, despite his internal alarm. The binding of wills was indeed an ancient Vorak tradition, but one rarely practiced in modern times. It stipulated that the loser would become ceremonially bound to the victor, effectively a personal servant until the debt of defeat was repaid. "I'm aware of it," he answered carefully. "Excellent." Kororin's facial ridges tightened in that cold smile. "The High Council has decreed that tomorrow's championship will include this element. Should Nayland defeat you, your service to her will begin immediately. Should you somehow emerge victorious, she will be bound to you according to Vorak tradition." The implication was clear. Kororin was adding stakes he believed would either force Kai to withdraw or ensure his defeat. No human would want to be bound in service to an alien champion, and no Vorak warrior of Nayland's stature would tolerate defeat if it meant such humiliation. "I accept these terms," Kai said calmly, surprising the arena master. Kororin's eyes narrowed. "The ceremony requires the defeated to wear binding cuffs as symbols of their new status. Golden for ceremonial purposes, but binding nonetheless." "Understood." After Kororin departed, Kai's implant immediately vibrated. "This changes nothing," Director Hawthorne instructed. "The mission remains priority. In fact, if you were to win, having the Vorak champion bound to you could provide unprecedented access to restricted information." Kai acknowledged the directive, but found himself troubled. The binding of wills was more than a ceremony to the Vorak. It was a sacred contract. To use it as a means of espionage felt like a violation, even to his pragmatic mind. The night before the championship, Kai was surprised by another visitor, Nayland herself, unannounced and unescorted. "You accepted the binding," she said as she entered his quarters. Her voice carried an emotion he couldn't quite identify. "I did." "Why?" she demanded. You must know Kororin intends it as humiliation. No human has ever bound a Vorak champion. No Vorak champion has ever been bound. Kai met her gaze steadily. I accepted because withdrawing would mean surrender. And I don't surrender. Naylin paced the small room, her movements tightly controlled, but betraying inner tension. You don't understand what this means to my people. The binding is sacred. If I lose, if I am bound to you, my honor would be irrevocably damaged. And if I lose, mine would be as well, Kai replied quietly. She stopped pacing and stared at him. You have repeatedly stated that honor means nothing to you. That survival is your only concern. Perhaps I've learned something from our conversations. Something shifted in Naylin's expression, a softening almost imperceptible. Tomorrow, one of us faces shame before 17 worlds. I would know the true measure of the man I face. Kai realized she was offering a moment of genuine connection, warrior to warrior, before they became opponents. I lost my family in the Proxima conflict, he said, sharing a truth he rarely acknowledged. Earth's military recruited me afterward. Fighting became all I had left. Naylin nodded slowly. The arena became my home when my house was dishonored in political disputes. I was sent here to restore our standing through combat excellence. She touched the marks on her arm. Each victory rebuilt our reputation. Each death honored my ancestors. Tomorrow doesn't have to end in death, Kai suggested. No, she agreed, surprising him. But it must end in absolute victory, for both our sakes. She moved toward the door, then paused. Fight well, Kai of Earth. Honor demands nothing less. After she left, Kai remained awake for hours, his mind racing with conflicting thoughts. The mission demanded he secure victory, and the access it would provide. Yet Naylin's visit had revealed the person behind the champion, someone not unlike himself, carrying the weight of expectations and duty. His implant remained silent that night. The day of the championship arrived with unprecedented ceremony. The arena was filled beyond capacity, with diplomatic representatives from all 17 allied worlds in attendance. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as Kai entered the fighting ground. Across the arena, Naylin made her entrance to thunderous acclaim. She wore full, ceremonial combat armor, gleaming with the distinctive metallic sheen of Vorak craftsmanship. The 17 marks of her victories were prominently displayed, and her curved blade caught the light as she raised it in salute to the crowd. Vex Kororin's voice boomed across the stadium. Citizens of the 17 worlds, we present the championship match. Naylin of the Vorak, undefeated champion for 15 cycles. The crowd's roar was deafening. Naylin stood proud, the embodiment of warrior nobility. And her challenger, Kororin continued, Kai of Earth, who seeks to claim our greatest prize. The response was mixed. Curiosity, some supportive cheers, and many jeers. Kai remained centered, his focus entirely on Naylin. By decree of the High Council, today's championship includes the sacred binding of wills, Kororin announced. Arena attendants approached, carrying a ceremonial box. The defeated shall wear these bonds as symbols of their new status. The box was opened to reveal golden cuffs, inscribed with ancient Vorak script, beautiful but unmistakably symbols of subservience. Combat begins at the tone, Kororin declared. Victory achieved by death, incapacitation, or surrender. The tone resonated throughout the arena. For a moment, neither fighter moved, each assessing the other across the expanse of red sand. Then Naylin attacked. She moved with breathtaking speed, her blade tracing lethal arcs through the air. Kai evaded the first flurry, recognizing that she was testing his reactions rather than committing fully. You move well, she acknowledged, circling. But evasion alone won't bring victory. Kai maintained his defensive posture. Neither will aggression without purpose. Her amber eyes flashed as she launched another series of attacks. This time, Kai didn't merely evade, he countered, striking at pressure points along her sword arm. Naylin adjusted instantly, protecting the targeted areas while continuing her assault. The battle escalated in intensity. Naylin's blade came within millimeters of Kai's vital points multiple times. His counterstrikes occasionally found their marks, but the Vorak champion's recovery was impressive. 20 minutes into the contest, they broke apart, circling again. Both were breathing heavily, but neither showed signs of surrendering. "You fight with honor despite your claims," Naylin observed, loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. "And you fight with intelligence despite your traditions," Kai returned. Something like appreciation flickered in her eyes before she attacked again. This time, her blade found its mark, a shallow cut across Kai's chest that drew first blood. The crowd roared its approval. Kai felt the warm trickle of blood but didn't allow it to distract him. He had been studying Naylin's movement patterns, identifying the subtle tells before her major attacks. Now, he implemented his counter-strategy. As she launched another combination, Kai didn't retreat. Instead, he stepped inside her guard, absorbing a glancing blow to his shoulder to gain position. His hands moved with precision, striking nerve clusters along her sword arm. For an instant, Naylin's grip faltered. It was enough. Kai executed a disarming technique, sending the Vorak blade spinning across the sand. The arena fell silent in collective shock. No one had ever separated Naylin from her ancestral weapon. But the champion was far from defeated. She immediately transitioned to unarmed combat, her strikes powerful and precise. Kai found himself on the defensive again, impressed by her adaptability. The battle continued, a mesmerizing display of technical skill from both combatants. Neither gave ground easily. Both accumulated minor injuries. The crowd, initially bloodthirsty, had fallen into an appreciative hush, witnessing something few had seen before, a contest of equals. An hour into the match, exhaustion began to take its toll. Naylin's attacks, while still dangerous, had lost some of their crispness. Kai's responses, though effective, required increasingly more effort. It was in this state, both fighters pushing beyond normal endurance, that the decisive moment arrived. Naylin committed to a powerful combination, drawing on reserved strength for what she intended as a finishing sequence. Kai recognized the pattern from their earlier exchanges and made his decision. Instead of evading, he met her attack directly, absorbing the initial strike to position himself for the counter. His hands found the precise nerve junctions at her neck and spine, points that would temporarily disrupt motor function without causing permanent damage. Naylin felt the technique taking effect, her limbs growing unresponsive despite her will commanding them to move. For the briefest moment, their eyes met in mutual recognition. Then her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the sand. The silence that followed was absolute. 17 worlds watched as the undefeated champion knelt before the human challenger. Naylin's amber eyes blazed, not with hatred, but with something more complex. The shock of recognition that her understanding of combat and honor had been fundamentally challenged. Kai stood over her, his own body trembling with exhaustion. "Yield," he said quietly. Pride warred with reality in Naylin's expression. Then, with dignity that transcended her position, she nodded once. "I yield." Vex Kororin's voice, when it finally came, sounded strangled with disbelief. "Victory to Kai of Earth, by submission." The ceremonial attendants approached with the golden cuffs. According to tradition, they would now be placed on Naylin's wrists, marking her as bound to Kai's service. As they knelt beside the fallen champion, Kai made an unexpected gesture. "The binding will be symbolic only," he announced, loud enough for nearby spectators and officials to hear. "No restraints." The attendants looked to Kororin for guidance. The arena master's purple eyes narrowed, but he nodded curtly. The ceremony proceeded, with the golden cuffs presented, but not locked. Naylin rose to her feet with quiet dignity, retrieving her sword from where it had fallen. The crowd began to murmur as they processed what they had witnessed. A human victory without bloodshed, and a gesture of respect toward the defeated champion. As they were escorted from the arena floor, Kai's implant vibrated. "Phase 1 complete," came Director Hawthorne's voice. "Proceed with information gathering in the secured areas." In the aftermath chamber, medical personnel attended to both fighters' injuries. Naylin sat in silence, the ornate golden cuffs resting on a table beside her, rather than encircling her wrists. "The ceremonial quarters have been prepared," an arena official informed them. "According to tradition, the bound champion will reside in proximity to the victor until the debt of defeat is satisfied." Kai nodded his understanding. The ceremonial quarters would place Naylin in an adjoining room to his own, an arrangement that would facilitate his mission while respecting her dignity. Later that evening, after the official ceremonies had concluded, Kai found himself alone with Naylin in the shared common area between their quarters. The tension between them was palpable, no longer the anticipation of combat, but the uncertainty of their new relationship. Naylin stood by the viewport, staring out at the stars. She had changed from her armor into simpler attire, though the curved Vorak blade remained within reach. The golden cuffs sat untouched on a nearby table. "You had opportunities to kill me," she said without turning. "At least 3 moments when a lethal strike was possible." "That wasn't my goal," Kai replied. "What was your goal, then?" She turned to face him, her amber eyes searching his face for truth. Kai chose his words carefully. "To win without unnecessary death. To demonstrate that there are alternatives to the arena's traditions. And now," she gestured to the golden cuffs, "what does the victor require of the defeated?" This was the crucial moment, where mission objectives collided with personal ethics. The binding tradition would grant him access to restricted areas through Naylin's presence. Yet to use her in this way felt wrong. "Nothing that violates your dignity," he answered. "The tradition requires proximity, not servitude." Something in Naylin's posture eased slightly. "You continue to confound expectations. Kai of Earth." She approached the table and picked up one of the golden cuffs, examining its intricate engravings. "In 15 cycles, I have bound 17 champions to my will. None survived their service. Yet, here I stand, defeated, but not diminished." "Not diminished at all," Kai agreed. She studied him with renewed intensity. "There is more to you than survival instinct. Your technique is too refined, your purpose too focused." Before Kai could respond, a soft alarm sounded throughout the quarters. Red emergency lighting activated, and the door to the common area sealed automatically. "Security breach," announced the arena's automated system. "All personnel remain in designated safe zones." Naylin moved to a control panel, entering an authorization code. "Arena security protocols," she explained. "As champion, I have access to—" She stopped abruptly as the panel sparked and went dark. "Overridden," she murmured, concern evident in her voice. Kai's instincts flared. This wasn't a routine security drill. "We need to move," he said, retrieving his few possessions. "Now." "The doors are sealed," Naylin pointed out. "Not for long." Kai approached the sealed entrance, examining its mechanism. "Help me with this panel." Together, they removed the access panel beside the door, exposing the control circuits beneath. Kai's fingers worked quickly, bypassing the security lockdown with techniques clearly beyond standard knowledge. Naylin watched with growing suspicion. "Those are classified override sequences. How does a human tournament fighter know them?" Before Kai could answer, the ventilation grate in the ceiling burst inward. 3 combat droids dropped into the room, their weapon systems activating with an ominous hum. "Assassination protocols engaged," announced the lead droid in a metallic voice. "Primary target, Kai of Earth. Secondary target, Naylan of the Vorak. No witnesses permitted. Naylan reached for her blade as the droids attacked. The confined space of the common area limited movement, but both fighters had trained for such scenarios. Kai disabled the first droid with precise strikes to its sensor array, while Naylan's curved blade severed the weapon arm of the second. The third droid, more advanced than its counterparts, deployed a neural disruptor, a weapon designed to incapacitate organic nervous systems. Kai pushed Naylan clear of the energy field, taking the brunt of the discharge himself. Pain lanced through his body, but his specialized training allowed him to maintain consciousness. As the droid recharged for another blast, Naylan executed a perfect attack sequence, her blade finding the gaps in the droid's armored plating. It collapsed in a shower of sparks. In the sudden silence that followed, Naylan turned to Kai, who was still recovering from the neural disruptor's effects. "Those were arena security droids," she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Programmed to protect, not assassinate. Someone reprogrammed them. Someone with high-level access." Kai struggled to his feet, fighting through the lingering pain. "Kororin," he suggested. "He wasn't pleased with the outcome of our match." "Perhaps," Naylan's eyes narrowed. "But that doesn't explain how you knew classified security overrides." She raised her blade, not threateningly, but with clear intent. "What are you really doing here, Kai of Earth?" The moment of truth had arrived sooner than anticipated. Kai made a split-second decision. Earth intelligence believes Nexus Arena is being used to coordinate an alliance against human interests. I was sent to gather evidence. He expected anger, perhaps even an immediate attack. Instead, Naylan lowered her blade slightly, her expression thoughtful. "The 17 Worlds Compact," she said quietly. "You're looking for proof of its military provisions." Kai nodded, surprised by her insight. "You know about it." "I sit on the High Council, by virtue of my championship status." Her amber eyes studied him with new understanding. "But I have been excluded from certain meetings. Decisions made without full council approval. Kororin has been consolidating power for cycles." The door mechanism finally yielded to Kai's tampering, sliding open to reveal an empty corridor bathed in red emergency lighting. "We need to move," Kai urged. "More security forces will come." Naylan made her decision quickly. She sheathed her blade and gathered essential items, including the ceremonial golden cuffs. "There's a data core 3 levels below us. If evidence of the compact exists, it will be there." "You're helping me?" Kai asked, surprised despite himself. "I'm helping justice," she corrected. "If Kororin is using the arena to advance personal agendas rather than honor, he violates everything the Vorak stand for." She met his gaze directly. "And if he sent assassins against a champion, even a defeated one, he has forfeited any claim to authority." They moved through the emergency corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where security would be concentrated. Naylan's knowledge of the arena's layout proved invaluable, guiding them through maintenance passages and service tunnels. "The data core is protected by biometric barriers," she explained as they descended. "My championship status should grant access, but if Kororin has revoked my credentials, we'll find another way," Kai assured her. They encountered 2 security patrols en route, dispatching them with efficient teamwork that demonstrated their complementary fighting styles. Kai's precision, strikes disabled, while Naylan's sweeping attacks created space. Finally, they reached the data core, a massive chamber filled with crystalline storage structures, pulsing with information. A security barrier separated them from the main terminal. Naylan placed her hand on the scanner. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the barrier shimmered and deactivated. "My access remains valid," she observed with visible relief. "Hurry!" Kai moved to the terminal, fingers flying across the interface. His specialized training included data extraction techniques. Director Hawthorne had provided specific search parameters, keywords, and file structures likely to contain evidence of the Alliance. "There," he murmured as classified documents appeared on the screen. "The 17 Worlds Compact, military provisions, resource allocation, targeting priorities." He inserted a small data crystal, beginning the transfer process. "Earth is designated as primary opposition. Invasion plans in preliminary stages." Naylen reviewed the information with growing concern. "This goes beyond arena politics. Kororin has been using the championship system to build allegiances, binding representatives to secrecy through our sacred traditions." "A convenient cover for conspiracy," Kai agreed, watching the data transfer progress. Suddenly, the chamber's main doors slid open. Vex Kororin entered, flanked by elite security forces. His forearms each held ceremonial weapons, and his purple eyes blazed with cold fury. "Treason and espionage," he announced. "How disappointing." Naylen moved to stand beside Kai, her blade drawn. "The only treason is yours, Kororin, using sacred traditions for political manipulation." "Politics and tradition have always been intertwined," the arena master replied dismissively. "The binding of wills has served multiple purposes for centuries. You were simply too focused on honor to notice." "And now?" Kai asked. Noting that the data transfer had completed, he palmed the crystal surreptitiously. "Now you both die," Kororin stated flatly. "The official record will show that the Earth champion became violent after victory, and the disgraced Vorik champion died defending arena security." He signaled his forces to attack. The ensuing battle filled the data core with chaos, energy weapons discharging against crystalline structures, blade against blade, as Naylen engaged directly with Kororin. Kai fought defensively, protecting the terminal while seeking an escape route. The security forces were well-trained but predictable. He disabled 3 in rapid succession, using their own weapons against their companions. Across the chamber, Naylen and Kororin dueled with increasing ferocity. The arena master's forearms gave him a significant advantage, allowing him to attack and defend simultaneously. Naylen's superior technique kept her in the fight, but she was gradually being forced back. Kai spotted a maintenance hatch behind the terminal, a potential escape route. "Naylen!" he called. "Fall back!" She disengaged from Kororin with a sweeping attack that forced him to defend, then retreated toward Kai's position. A plasma bolt from one of the security forces caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. She maintained her footing through sheer will, reaching Kai's side with blood streaming from the wound. "The hatch," he directed, covering her movement with precise throws that disabled the nearest security officer's weapon. Naylen wrenched the hatch open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. "You first," she insisted. "The data must reach Earth." Kai hesitated only briefly before entering the tunnel. Naylen followed, pulling the hatch closed behind them as plasma fire impacted the surrounding area. They crawled through the claustrophobic space, guided by emergency lighting strips along the floor. Naylen's breathing was labored, her injury clearly causing significant pain. "The tunnel leads to the shuttle bays," she managed between breaths. "Security will expect that. We need to diverge." "There's a maintenance airlock near Junction 7, Kai recalled from the arena schematics he had memorized. Emergency evacuation systems include independent transport pods. They changed course at the next junction, following a narrower tunnel that angled sharply downward. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them, security forces entering the maintenance system. Finally, they reached the airlock Kai had mentioned. It was designed for emergency repairs to the arena's outer hull, with self-contained environmental suits and small transport pods for technicians. "The pods are short-range," Naylen noted, examining the control panel. "Designed to reach the maintenance station in the asteroid belt." "That's far enough," Kai assured her. He helped her into one of the environmental suits, careful of her injured shoulder, then donned one himself. As they prepared the transport pod, the sound of approaching security grew louder. Kai activated the emergency override, causing the airlock's outer door to begin its opening sequence. "Once we launch, where do we go?" Nayland asked, her voice tight with pain. "Earth has operatives in the maintenance station," Kai revealed. "They can extract us to a stealth vessel." The outer door finished cycling. Beyond it lay the vast expanse of space, dotted with the lights of the asteroid belt surrounding Nexus Arena. "Ready?" Kai asked. Nayland nodded, her amber eyes visible through the suit's faceplate. "For honor and truth." They launched the pod just as security forces breached the inner airlock. Plasma fire dissipated harmlessly against the closing outer door as their small vessel accelerated away from the arena. From a distance, Nexus Arena resembled a massive jewel nestled within the asteroid. Its beauty belied the corruption and conspiracy harbored within its walls. "It was my home for 15 cycles," Nayland said softly, watching as the arena receded. "Everything I believed I was fighting for." "Not everything was a lie," Kai offered. "Your skill, your courage, those were real." She turned to him, the zero-gravity environment making her movements fluid despite her injury. "And now I am bound to you, champion of Earth, the first Vorak to leave the arena in defeat rather than death." "The binding was ceremonial," Kai reminded her. "You owe me nothing." "I disagree." Her expression was solemn behind the faceplate. "Not because of tradition, but because of choice. You fought with honor despite claiming it meant nothing to you. You spared my life when custom demanded otherwise." She reached for the small compartment in her suit, where she had stored the golden cuffs. "I choose to honor the binding, not as a slave, but as an ally." Kai was moved by her declaration. "Earth will welcome your knowledge. The alliance against us can be countered with proper intelligence." "And after?" she asked. "When your mission is complete?" It was a question Kai hadn't allowed himself to consider. For years, mission had followed mission, with no thought to what might come after. "I don't know," he admitted. "I've been a weapon for so long. I'm not sure I remember how to be anything else." "Then perhaps we can discover that together," Nayland suggested. "A Vorak without an arena, a human without a war, both seeking new definitions of honor." The transport pod's navigation system chimed, indicating they were approaching the maintenance station. Ahead, the lights of a small outpost shimmered against the backdrop of space. "Director Hawthorne will meet us there," Kai explained. "From there, we'll take a stealth vessel to Earth." "Will your people accept a Vorak champion?" "They'll accept the intelligence you bring," Kai said. "The rest, we'll face together." As the pod docked with the maintenance station, they prepared to disembark, before removing his helmet. Kai turned to Nayland. "Thank you," he said simply, "for choosing truth over tradition." "And you," she returned, "for showing me that honor can exist beyond the arena." They stepped into the station, leaving behind the weight of ancient traditions and carrying forward the possibility of new beginnings. A human champion and his Vorak ally, bound not by golden cuffs, but by mutual respect and shared purpose. 6 months later, on an Earth colony world designated as a training facility for special operations, Nayland stood before a group of human recruits. Her shoulder had healed, though the plasma burn had left a distinctive scar, her 18th mark, though one earned in a very different context than the previous 17. "Combat is not merely about victory," she instructed, demonstrating a fluid movement that combined Vorak blade techniques with human adaptability. "It is about purpose. Understanding why you fight determines how you fight." From the observation platform, Kai watched with quiet pride. In the months since their escape from Nexus Arena, Nayland had become an invaluable asset to Earth's defense preparations. Her insights into the 17 Worlds Compact had allowed strategic countermeasures to be implemented, potentially averting open conflict. More importantly, she had found a new purpose, training Earth's defenders in techniques that honored life rather than glorified death. She caught his eye and smiled briefly before returning her attention to the recruits. "Again," she commanded. "Focus on balance, not force. Precision, not power." Later, as they walked along the perimeter of the training grounds, the setting sun painted the landscape in hues, reminiscent of the arena's red sands. "What are you looking at?" Nayland asked, noticing Kai's thoughtful expression. "You," he answered honestly. "Teaching them what honor means, what survival requires. Your way and mine, combined." She nodded, understanding. "The binding is fulfilled, you know. By any traditional measure, my debt is paid." "It was never about debt." "No," she agreed, taking his hand. "It was about finding truth. In the arena, in ourselves." The golden cuffs had been melted down months ago, reforged into matching armbands they both wore. Symbols, not of servitude, but of transformation. The peace was fragile. The alliance against Earth had been disrupted, but not dismantled. Tensions remained high among the 17 worlds, many of which viewed the arena scandal as human manipulation rather than the exposure of corruption. But in this moment, watching the sun set over a world neither of them had expected to call home, Kai and Nayland stood united, champions who had redefined victory to mean something beyond tradition or survival. "Ready for tomorrow's advanced class?" she asked. "Always," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. They walked together toward the horizon, carrying the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. A human champion and his Vorak warrior, bound by choice rather than ceremony.